Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you today, and a great honor indeed to be speaking on this amazing subject of great interest to us all, international business and financial technology in the digital economy. And I want to tell you some thoughts I have about the importance and the value of open innovation and technology transfer within this. And we will get to that in just a moment. But first of all, my greetings from my hometown of Cambridge. There's a picture of it. It's an ancient medieval city, but more recently, it's been through 60 years of amazing innovation where we have a culture of openness, joined-upness, creativity, and a lot of developments in digital technology. You all know that we have a great university here with 31 colleges, very, very strongly renowned for education and research. This is King's College on the right, and the university's been here for more than 800 years, and we have had lots of people winning the Nobel Prize, probably more than 112, as I give you this talk today. And here's another picture, another beautiful picture, I think, of Cambridge. It's a beautiful historic city. This is the Bridge of Sighs at St. John's College. But not only is it historic, but we've seen amazing development of innovation and an entrepreneurial ecosystem. And this subject of open innovation has been very important within that. And I feel very privileged and happy today to be sharing this information with you. And I have expectations that hopefully beyond today, we might have the chance to meet or even work together in the future. So here in Cambridge, we have enjoyed 60 years of great innovation, and there has been built a world-class cluster of new technology companies. I've only a short time today, so my agenda is to say a few words about our world and the context of the digital economy. We'll talk about technology, industry sector convergence, open innovation, as I said, alternative finance, digital finance, a revolution underway with blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and I'll say something about cryptocurrencies, and some thoughts on the future of banking, finance, money, wealth, and value. And I'm very, very interested in collaborations between China and Europe, and I've got some examples for you. This is an independent set of views. I'm not a financial specialist, but one that believes very, very passionately in a world without borders. But let's think about our world for the moment. The population of the world's growing very fast. In 1953, I was 13. And when I was 13, there were 3.5 billion people on this earth. Now there are 7.5. Eventually, soon there will be 10 billion. So we're all living longer. I'm pleased to say that I'm living longer, and you can see that I'm quite old, but we're not always living healthier. And that's a big dilemma. And as we see in the press today, we're living through climate change, energy problems, food and water shortages, and there are lots of changes in the world economy, but we should be positive, not negative, because we're living through the century of science and technology. And some people say this is a new renaissance. It's an age of education. 8 million new graduates almost every year now in your country alone of China. So when I look at the world, I see big opportunities for business and entrepreneurs, and they're all being enhanced by digital technology. This is another context. This is the digital revolution and the impact of communication and its capabilities, enabling open innovation. 1991, we got the World Wide Web, thanks to this man, Tim Berners-Lee. And there were great improvements which are going on still in connectedness, connectivity, and I've got this other word, connectricity, connectedness with energy, and open innovation. It was the greatest revolution in communications since Gutenberg's printing press 500 years before, when we got books, and it has enabled the restructuring of many, many things, including financial presentation, thinking, and practices. It has brought real revolutions. So what is this open innovation, in case you're not familiar with it, that I'm talking about? Well, there are, as always, academic definitions. Chesbrough in the States talks about inflows and outflows of knowledge to accelerate internal innovation and expand the markets for external use of innovation. And there have been lots of publications, lots of papers, lots of people writing and doing research. But for me, open innovation is practice and not theory. And I'm very much more interested in the human entrepreneurial creativity that I see taking place, because I think open innovation is all about the way people think and work together. And here's a little chart that tells us, if we're not familiar, something about open innovation. Imagine this is a large company doing research development and commercializing its research. And you see all the projects on the left in the funnel. There are many of them. As they go through the process of development, quite a lot disappear. So what comes out at the end is many, many fewer than what goes in. And in the old days, these processes were generally taking place within a single company. The walls were built high around it to protect people coming in. But there is a new way now that we believe in, which we call open innovation, which enables, as you can see here, ideas and technologies to be brought into our processes, and intellectual property to be in-licensed, to be brought in, and to be licensed out if we invent something we don't need. Company boundaries to be broken down to enable new products to be brought in from other people to combine with our own. And then if we invent something really important and we're a large company, we can spin out a smaller one. So what we're talking about here is replacing competitiveness in some ways with partnership. And it's been especially important in the development of innovative digital technology companies. So companies large and small and institutions can be involved and work together. Geographic borders can be crossed. And I can assure you that the means can be found to deal with the issues that people say might be challenging, like who owns the intellectual property. Let's take one step further back and think about the pervasive technology platforms and how they are converging to make tomorrow's business and finance world so exciting. Here I'm showing, because we've got them in Cambridge and you've got them in Beijing and you've got them in other great centers in China, biotech, information technology, including communications and finance technology, nanotechnology, all close together and overlapping, and they are converging. And open innovation, when these convergences occur and people meet and talk together, enables the transfer of the knowledge in people's heads, and that means the speed of technology, discovery and innovation can be enhanced. And the digital revolution and the World Wide Web are helping us do it all a lot better. And just consider the potential for innovation and synergy where those circles combine. We can look at it slightly differently on this chart, where we've got R&D, education, and applications through companies on a single campus, which I call the innovation campus. And it's where entrepreneurial ecosystems evolve. And of course, the role of universities, great universities, is crucial. And the effective commercialization of research depends upon communication and open innovation, where synergy, knowledge transfer, symbiosis happen, and we can see business developments in all the sectors that I've mentioned there, and more, medical as well, as things like computing, quantum computing, machine learning, and blockchain. This is the way in which a very large international company, Nokia, thought about open innovation, and they were pioneers in it, bringing in external ideas and using external ideas in business models. The large and the small in synergistic relationships working together. Small companies can often move very much more quickly developing things than large ones. And if they come together, large and small, it means much faster definition of more new things. And we've seen developments in all the fields that I've mentioned there. And I keep mentioning Fintech because it's very important. Machine learning, robotics, they've all innovated and they've all benefited very greatly by this approach to open innovation. So as we proceed, please bear in mind how open innovation and international technology transfer have been critical factors in enabling worldwide progress. And I'm sure it will remain so. A little bit of history, we all know this, the evolution of money and financial systems. We started off exchanging barter. We got to precious things like gold, metal coins, paper, plastic, electronic money, and then cryptocurrency. But if any of these systems are going to work properly, let's not forget that there has to be trust between the parties involved. And there are lots of questions about cryptocurrencies, and I'll come back to those in just a little while. But when we think about it, the word money doesn't have the traditional meaning anymore that it had when I was younger, because we don't have the cash, do we? There's M-money now, unseen mobile device money, or maybe it's not money, but it's value. And we have to consider the impact on banking of all this, because the speed of change is closer to revolution than it is to evolution. So what was it that happened in 1991 that changed not only banking and the financial systems of the world, but so much more? Well, we've already mentioned it. Tim Berners-Lee and the birth of the World Wide Web. The internet changing the world, and particularly changing things in financial technology. Online finance, fintech, mobile payments, big data revolution is the word we have to use to describe it. In alternative finance, crowdfunding, either by lending, by donation, by equity, we can now practice much more advanced risk management. We've got online banking enhancements coming every day, and we've got the future, which will be helped by blockchain. So we could say that in the developing world of enterprise finance, we're seeing some amazing things that have already happened and more that will. The internet and entrepreneurs together have changed the world of business and finance. And there have, of course, been other contributing factors, like the failures of the Western banking system, that have made some of these moves to do without banks much more powerful and fast. Crowdfunding is a big contributor to, and impact investing. And I'll say a word or two about microfinance as well. So we see a world where money can be raised without banks or venture capital. We see internet and entrepreneurs working together to create and continue a revolution in finance, cognitive computing, big data, mobile payments, digital currencies, many new companies incubating in the fintech sector in particular. And of course, we're accelerating ourselves towards a cashless society. And social media leadership is putting China in a very strong frontline position, because you're very good at social media management in China. And in terms of China's position in technology, is there a future for credit cards or cash? We'll come back to that. But looking at the broader technological issue, this was a question: is China the next tech leader? That me and a few others were asked to talk about not too long ago, before the pandemic, at the Oxford China Forum at the Oxford University Union. Is China the next tech leader? We talked about it at great depth, and we had to conclude that in some areas, China is already the tech leader. And we concluded that it's a very important question, because the origins of economic growth are knowledge, science, and technology. So it's a big, big issue. And it's one of the contentious issues which is not helping us, which is going on between the US and China, because the US can't bear not to be the number one, and China in some cases is the number one. The internet and alternative finance, this has been a major development towards online finance. In Cambridge, we have in the Judge Business School the Center for Alternative Finance, and it's working with universities in China, including in Zhejiang, where I've been honored to be a member of the Academy of Internet Finance Board. And this was one of the reports published about how alternative finance, non-institutional finance, online finance has developed, particularly in the world and Asia. And Zhejiang contributed towards this, as well as did the business school in Cambridge. And here is what the report contained. It showed the runaway scale of online finance in China. See, from 2013 to 2017, how it grew from almost nothing to over 300 billion US alternative finance, online finance. The early growth was very fast, but it's slowing down now because we've had COVID. And the Chinese government has intervened, I think quite rightly so, in order to ensure proper control and regulation. So if I show you the latest information I've got, it shows us that in 2018, there was a reduction in the amount of online finance. It is, by the way, mostly debt, but the equity part is growing. And the reduction was definitely due partly to COVID, but also to do with the Chinese government taking a firmer hand on control, which I think for the long term will be a very good thing. I think these numbers are going to increase more and more over the years as the economies of the world pick up. Let's take a quick look at the impact of the internet on the development of microcredit. Mohammed Yunus founded the Grameen Bank, a Bangladeshi man who said, let's help the poor of the world help themselves by enabling them to have some loans, even small loans, lending to the poor online. People said it won't work. He said, rubbish, it will work. And there are now schemes in well over 100 countries. Many more than 10 million loans have been extended, and they do get paid back. So microfinance has flourished also because of the internet. And then we got blockchain. I've got a definition here, which I will just go through with you because people ask me, what is the blockchain? It's a system of recording in a way that makes it probably impossible to change, hack, or cheat. It's a digital ledger of transactions that's duplicated across the entire network. And that's just a basic definition of blockchain. It's subject to a lot of research and publications, and it's not just applied in finance. I think that's been a mistake for people to consider that. It's applied in maths, analytics, computer science, and well beyond finance. It will be a technology of the future for sure. And there has been a lot written about it. There have been benchmarking reports published by the Cambridge Center for Alternative Finance. Incidentally, any of the reports that I mentioned here, I can make available to those of you running this event, and you can make it available to the delegates. Let's think about currency then, before we talk about cryptocurrency. What is a currency for? The classical definition is that it should be a store of value, a unit of account, and a medium of exchange, which enables to compare currencies and to do our international trade in a sensible way. The question, is Bitcoin or are cryptocurrencies generally, are they real currencies? It's a very, very contentious issue. Do these things meet the criteria of a true currency, or are they something different? Are they a store of value, a unit of account, a medium of exchange? Recent experiences indicate to me, and this is my opinion, that they are trading devices and that are designed to make profits, not primarily to be an exchange mechanism. And there are big fluctuations in value. Now, I suspect that in due course, properly established national or international cryptocurrencies will become established. But many of us in the West agree with the Chinese government's cautious view and its suspicions about present cryptocurrencies and what people are trying to use them for. And I think that's where the issues lie. So those are my thoughts on cryptocurrencies. But what about those banks that I referred to earlier? Not always helpful to smaller companies in my country, not at all. And we've had bad debts. We've had booms and busts. We've had the banks in the West focused on trading and their own profits. That hasn't been the case in the same way in China. But in the West, as you know, in 2008, we had a big financial collapse and the governments had to save the banks. Property bubbles, mortgage problems, big problems with greed and fear driving financial decisions. So what and who are the banks for? It's a big question. I haven't got an easy answer for you, but there is not so much in the West focused on the customer these days as on the banks and the money they make themselves. Now, here's one of your famous entrepreneurs who's been very critical of the Chinese banks. Jack Ma, he said, if banks don't change, we will change them. And indeed, he introduced the Alibaba micro loan business, and that's lent to many, many small companies and enabled lots of people to loan money and lots of people to borrow it. And then, of course, we have Alipay, which is still there. It's had a few setbacks lately, as you in China know better than me. But the Chinese government is now focusing on greater controls and regulation, which is probably a good thing, which will bring perhaps a little bit more order to some of the things that have been going on with these very, very fast-moving private companies. And one thing that I am struck with as being very positive that I read about and talk to Chinese friends about is the concept and policy of common prosperity, which is now a key focus of President Xi. And it sounds to me that that's a pretty good policy. So, fintech in banking, whether it's an app, a platform, or a processing system, whatever it is, fintech is changing the way we spend, save, and manage our finances. And companies like Oracle have published very interesting reports indicating what they think will be the right architecture, a new architecture for the next generation in banking. Fintech in banking does give us lots of opportunity to improve systems and services. Yes, there are risks. It can disrupt, it can create challenging alternatives to traditional providers that can cut out middle people. Blockchain can encourage peer-to-peer lending. Fintech companies, I think, will be disruptors that will change the way investment practices are going on and could eliminate the banks from some sectors. But the banks have the possibilities to open up application programming interfaces to boost their own innovation and competition. And the banks certainly have to face the realities of a changing future and the growth of the fintech industry. Banks and money management applications is an interesting subject too, because fintech can make overseas payments a lot easier, and it can make a lot of other things a lot easier. And it's not only the banks, because private companies are moving in to enable the movement of money more efficiently. And there's a question for you: can the banks compete with fintech operators such as Revolut and Currencyfair and other digital platforms that are growing very, very fast? So there's a lot to think about and discuss in terms of the future of banking and what will banks look like in 10 years' time. Will the banks themselves become fintech leaders, or will other fintech players replace the banks? I mean, that is a very big question. The writer of this paper, Gregor Jung, is China the fintech capital of the world? Obviously thinks it is. And there is some very good evidence, because the fintech industry has developed so fast in China that it's been able to expand and drive throughout Asia. And technology and open innovation have scored in enabling Chinese companies to make very, very fast progress in many overseas territories with fintech. And coming to the issue of overseas business and overseas collaboration, I'm very, very keen on Europe and the UK and China doing more together and connecting our universities and our companies and creating a world without borders. And I've got just a few quick examples for you here of some of the things that I've been very pleased to be involved in. This is the mayor's office in Cambridge, and this is the Chengdu Financial Holdings Group in Cambridge, the leaders of that group, where we're signing out a very significant collaboration to work together. We then went to London. This is the Guildhall in London. There's the Lord Mayor of London, the Chinese ambassador, the mayor of Chengdu, agreeing to work together to exchange best practices in fintech between the UK and particularly London and Cambridge and Chengdu. And the Cass Business School, as it was then, launched a fintech center in Chengdu in China. I've also seen, and I haven't got time to talk about them today, a lot of wonderful developments supporting fintech in China. I visited one of the new fund towns 2 or 3 years ago in Tianfu in Sichuan near Chengdu. The fund towns are a very interesting concept. Whole new towns which are focused on finance, investment, encouraging innovation, and encouraging overseas investment. Very, very exciting. And all of this has caused some of us to work with our Chinese friends on what we call Go to China venture camps, which enable companies to move between Europe and China and Europe into soft landing situations where they can thrive and grow. I'm very interested in seeing how we can, through open innovation and a world without borders mindset, enable more exchanges between the West and China and companies to become more international more rapidly. On cross-border collaboration, here I am in a car in Chengdu on one of my visits. We were on the way to a very impressive new fintech incubator center because I was very interested to find out at this destination, the Chengdu Innovation Finance Development District, what was going on there and how could we help and how could we benefit from what they were doing. It's a major, major investment, long-term commitments to local, national, and international development and leadership. And indeed, we were able to work with the people in Chengdu when we visited that center with a training seminar in the incubator here. And we've had very many more seminars, both in Chengdu, other parts of China, and in Europe, to exchange information on business and finance. And while I was there in China on that visit, I also went to Guiyang in Guizhou. And most of you will know that Guizhou has become known, certainly it has become known in other parts of the world, in a way as China's big data valley, where leadership, education, and investment in alternative finance, online finance, blockchain, AI, and fintech have been a very, very big focus in many ways. And I found it extremely interesting and exciting to learn that the government and provincial government policy is funding very interesting new developments in location in Southwest China, which had become rather economically depressed and are now stimulated by having investment to become big new centers of new finance. And I can't talk about open innovation or digital progress without mentioning this great company, Huawei. Huawei is being challenged at the moment by the geopolitics that are going on between China and particularly the US. And the US clearly has fears about the leadership of Huawei in technology, particularly 5G and probably eventually 6G. And there are some battles going on. But in my view, the power of Huawei and other Chinese telecoms leaders has been and will remain an essential driver in the digital revolution. And in my home city of Cambridge, Huawei is a big investor. They have their R&D center and they're building a factory, and it's internationally a very highly developed company. So I'm a supporter of this man and his company. They're definitely the leaders in telecommunications worldwide. And we're very happy to have them as a valued member of the industrial community in Cambridge. And as I was talking a little while about Guizhou, I came across this information which shows us how important the telecommunications industry is as part of the digital economy and what great value it has in business and wealth development in key investment provinces. So I'm coming to the end of my time, and it's time for me to look ahead at the future of finance and money and tomorrow's world and international business and sum up a bit for you. And as I look ahead, I see a cashless society, the end of credit cards. You haven't had them so much in China. We've had a lot of them in the West. I see the age of fintech and big data. I see the banking industry redefined. I see some problems. I see geopolitical uncertainties, which I hope we can resolve, because I want to see progress in the world towards the elimination of poverty, the redefinitions of true value, and I think I will see technology going upwards and onwards in the expression of movement of value and assets. But there will be problems, and not all people will behave well, and human nature will not be rid of greed and fear. So, my friends, expect the unexpected. Reimagining is likely to create great surprises, and digital technology in particular, together with quantum computing, is going to create a whole new world in which business, art, money, creativity, open innovation, and entrepreneurship will change the world even faster. And if you'd like a little read of a book in your own Chinese language about how to start and fund a company, myself and my colleagues wrote this one a few years ago, and I hope it's available if any of you would like to read it. And with that, I just want to say a final word that truly, for us in Cambridge, Chinese visitors and friends are always welcome. Please come if you can, when the travel restrictions are gone, or at least communicate with us online. Let's connect across continents with innovation. Let's create, through education, a world without borders. So I feel very privileged to be here and to have been invited to speak to you today. And I thank you so much for your time and attention and for listening to me. Goodbye.